You don't need more motivation. You don't need another quote, another video, another burst of energy that disappears by tomorrow morning. What you need is action. Not massive action, not perfect action, just action taken consistently, day by day. Most people wait. They wait to feel ready. They wait for confidence, for the right moment, the right mood, the right circumstances, and while they wait, life passes them by. You can't wait for motivation to show up. Motivation is fleeting. It is unreliable. It comes and goes like the weather, and it will never create the life you want. The only thing that will create your life is movement, action, doing something, anything, today, no matter how small, no matter how imperfect. This is the principle that separates those who achieve from those who only dream. Action comes before belief. Action comes before confidence. You prove yourself by moving forward, not by waiting to feel like you can. Every result you admire in other people's lives started with a decision to act without permission from motivation. They moved first. They felt later. You have to understand this because this is how you will train your mind over the next few hours, over the next few days, to stop negotiating with excuses, to stop asking permission, to stop waiting for conditions that will never come. Your feelings do not drive your success. Your choices do. Every time you put off what you should do, every time you choose comfort over challenge, you train your mind that it can avoid the very discomfort that leads to growth. Every time you act in spite of resistance, you teach your mind that discomfort is temporary, but the payoff is real, that progress is created through effort, that identity is forged one action at a time. You don't become someone by wishing to be that person. You become that person by doing the things that person would do every single day, consistently, relentlessly, whether you feel like it or not. This is not easy. Nothing worth building is. It feels uncomfortable at first. It feels awkward. It challenges everything you thought was safe and comfortable. But discomfort is not the enemy. It is the signal that you are growing. Every step you take into discomfort is a step toward the life you want, a step toward becoming someone who does what they say they will do, who doesn't negotiate with excuses, who doesn't wait for permission from motivation. If you want to change your life, you have to stop thinking in terms of dramatic events, in terms of monumental breakthroughs. You win life in small, daily victories. One disciplined hour today, one focused task completed today, one commitment honored today matters more than any motivational surge, any rush of inspiration. Consistency compounds. Small steps repeated every day build unstoppable momentum. You were not born a procrastinator. You trained yourself into it. Every time you delayed, avoided, or escaped discomfort, your brain learned that delay is safe, that avoidance is comfortable. Now you must retrain it. You retrain it by acting immediately when something feels uncomfortable. Not perfectly, just immediately. Speed kills hesitation. The more you delay, the more your mind convinces you that you are weak, that you are not capable, that comfort is your natural state. But this is a lie. Your true state is action. Your natural state is growth. Every day you have a choice. You can do nothing or you can do something. The moment you start moving, momentum starts building. Even the smallest action creates confidence. Even the smallest effort leads to clarity. Action is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. You don't need passion to show up. You need standards. You act because you have decided that this is what you do. You act because this is who you are. Motivation is unreliable. Passion is fleeting. Discipline is unshakable. It does not depend on feelings. It depends on commitment. The more you act, the more you feel capable. The more you act, the more your mind trusts you. The more you act, the more your reality starts to change. Resistance is a sign you are growing, that you are pushing past what is comfortable, that you are moving toward a version of yourself that most people never reach because they stop at hesitation, they stop at fear, they stop at the first moment of discomfort. Pain is proof of progress. Boredom is proof that you are doing something that matters. Fear is proof that you are stepping into territory that challenges you. Every time you move forward despite these feelings, you are building momentum that cannot be taken away. This is the process. Day by day, action by action, moment by moment, you become someone who does not negotiate with life, who does not wait for permission, who does not rely on fleeting feelings to guide them. You become unstoppable because your identity is no longer tied to comfort, but to movement. You do not need to feel ready. You do not need to feel inspired. You only need to act. Day by day, you force yourself to take action. Today, tomorrow, the next day, and the next. Eventually, your life changes not because of one moment of brilliance, not because of one surge of energy, not because of luck, but because of the small, consistent actions you took every single day, even when no one was watching, even when you felt nothing, even when it hurt. You do not win in giant leaps. You win in small, relentless, daily steps. The person you want to become is not created by waiting. They are created by moving, by doing, by acting, when it is hardest, when it is uncomfortable, when it is inconvenient. This is your practice. This is your training. This is how you build a life that matters. This is how you build yourself. There will come a point where you realize that your biggest enemy was never a lack of talent, luck, or opportunity, but inconsistency. Because inconsistency keeps you trapped in the same cycle of starting, stopping, hoping, and quitting, and every time you quit, even quietly, something inside you learns that your word is flexible, that promises can be delayed, that effort is optional, and this is how potential slowly dies. Not in failure, but in hesitation. And the way out of this cycle is not through a sudden burst of willpower, but through a simple, firm decision to act every single day, no matter how small the action feels. Because small actions done daily carry a weight that massive actions done occasionally never will. And once you commit to daily action, something changes internally. You stop relying on emotional highs and start operating from standards. And standards don't ask how you feel. They ask what needs to be done. And this is where real growth begins, when action becomes automatic, when movement becomes your default response to uncertainty, when discomfort stops being a warning sign and starts becoming a familiar companion, because discomfort is the price of progress, and progress is the reward for those who keep moving when others stop. And you must understand that boredom, fatigue, and doubt are not signs of failure. They are signs that you are in the repetition phase where discipline is being built, where your nervous system is adapting, where your mind is learning that you are serious. And this phase feels slow, it feels unrewarding, it feels lonely. But it is the most important phase of all, because this is where identity is rewritten. This is where you stop seeing yourself as someone who tries and start seeing yourself as someone who does. And once that shift happens, the world responds differently. Not because the world changed, but because you did. Your posture changes, your energy changes, your decisions become sharper, your tolerance for excuses drops, and suddenly the things that used to overwhelm you feel manageable. Not because they became easier, but because you became stronger. And strength is built in the moments when no one is watching, when no one is clapping, when there is no immediate payoff, and every day you choose action over comfort. You deposit something into a mental account that compounds silently, building confidence without noise, building self-respect without approval, and one day you realize that you no longer need to force yourself the way you once did, because action has become natural, discipline has become familiar, and forward movement has become part of who you are. And this is the real reward of acting day by day. Not just the results you eventually see, but the person you become long before those results arrive. At some stage, you stop arguing with your own mind because you finally understand that the mind's job is not to make you successful, but to keep you comfortable. And comfort is a silent killer of progress because it disguises itself as safety, as logic, as patience. When in reality, it is nothing more than avoidance dressed up as wisdom. And once you see this clearly, You stop taking every thought seriously. You stop obeying every feeling. You stop letting temporary emotions decide permanent outcomes, and instead you choose action as your anchor, because action grounds you in reality while overthinking traps you in imagination. And the more you act, the less power your doubts have, not because they disappear, but because they are drowned out by evidence. Evidence that you can move even when it feels heavy, that you can continue even when the path is unclear, that you can keep promises to yourself without applause, and this evidence becomes your new confidence. A quiet confidence that does not announce itself but shows up consistently, and this is how self-respect is built, not through achievements alone, but through the daily practice of doing what you said you would do, especially on the days when motivation is absent and energy is low, because those days teach you the most about who you really are. And as you continue to act day by day, you begin to notice a shift in how you experience resistance. It no longer feels like a wall meant to stop you, but like a signal that you are moving in the right direction, because resistance only appears when something meaningful is at stake, and instead of backing away, you lean in. You move forward anyway, knowing that every step taken under resistance strengthens your capacity to handle more. And this is how resilience is formed, not through comfort, but through exposure, not through waiting, but through repeated effort. And slowly, almost without noticing, your standards rise. The things you once avoided become part of your routine. The challenges you once feared become familiar, and your identity reshapes itself around action, not intention. And when that happens, excuses lose their grip, procrastination loses its appeal, and forward motion becomes your natural state. Not because life got easier, but because you trained yourself to move regardless. And this is the power of forcing yourself to take action day by day. It rewires your mind, strengthens your character, and builds a version of you that does not collapse under pressure, but advances through it. Eventually, you realize that waiting has a cost, and that cost is paid in missed opportunities, weakened confidence, and a quiet sense of regret that builds when days pass without forward movement. And once you see that clearly, action stops feeling like pressure and starts feeling like relief. Because doing what needs to be done lifts a weight off your mind that avoidance keeps piling on. And this is why even hard work can feel lighter than procrastination, because effort moves energy forward while delay traps it inside you, creating tension, guilt, and frustration. And when you act, even imperfectly, that tension releases, clarity replaces confusion, and momentum replaces doubt. And you begin to understand that clarity is not something you think your way into. It is something you earn through movement, because every step forward reveals the next step, and the path only becomes visible once you are already walking it. And this is why you must stop demanding certainty before action, because certainty is the reward for those who move without it. And as you continue to act day by day, you stop measuring progress by emotional excitement and start measuring it by reliability, by how often you show up, by how consistently you honor your commitments. And this shift is subtle but life-changing, because reliability builds trust, and trust in yourself is the foundation of confidence. And once that trust is established, you stop sabotaging your own momentum. You stop breaking promises to yourself, and your mind begins to work with you instead of against you, supporting movement instead of resisting it. And the more you act, the more aligned you feel, because action brings coherence between your thoughts, your values, and your behavior, and alignment creates peace, even in the middle of struggle. And this is why disciplined people appear calm under pressure, not because they are fearless, but because they are practiced. They have trained themselves to move through discomfort rather than freeze in it. And this training happens in ordinary days, in repetitive effort, in moments that feel insignificant at the time, but accumulate into something powerful. And one day you notice that you are no longer chasing motivation or inspiration. You are simply executing, and execution becomes your identity. Not as a harsh force, but as a steady rhythm that carries you forward regardless of mood, regardless of circumstance, and this rhythm maintained day by day, quietly transforms your life from the inside out. You start to notice that action has a strange and powerful effect on time, because when you delay, time feels heavy and slow, filled with pressure and unfinished thoughts. But when you move, time becomes productive and meaningful. And this shift changes how you experience your days, because instead of measuring time by how long something takes, you begin measuring it by how much you grow during it. And growth becomes addictive in the healthiest way, because every completed task, every honored commitment, every moment you choose effort over ease strengthens your internal foundation, and this foundation is what allows you to carry responsibility without feeling crushed by it, because responsibility feels overwhelming only when you doubt your ability to handle it, and action removes that doubt piece by piece, repetition by repetition, until challenges that once felt intimidating begin to feel like opportunities to prove your strength, and as you continue to force yourself to act day by day, you begin to detach from perfection. You stop expecting flawless execution, and instead, you respect persistence. Because persistence is what produces mastery, not perfection. And mastery grows through mistakes, adjustments, and continued effort, not through hesitation or overanalysis. And when you accept that imperfection is part of progress, you free yourself from one of the biggest barriers to action, which is the fear of doing something poorly. And once that fear loses its power, you become faster, more decisive, more willing to try. And speed becomes one of your greatest advantages. Not reckless speed, but confident movement that trusts learning through doing. And this confidence is not loud or arrogant. It is quiet and steady, built from evidence collected through daily effort. And that evidence changes how you see yourself. You no longer view yourself as someone hoping for success, but as someone building it deliberately, brick by brick, action by action, and this perspective removes desperation, replacing it with patience, because you understand that real progress is layered, that strong results require strong foundations, and strong foundations are built through repeated, disciplined movement over time. And as this understanding deepens, you begin to experience a powerful calmness, even while working hard. Because you are no longer rushing for instant outcomes, you are committed to the process, and commitment to the process is what allows you to stay consistent when excitement fades, when recognition is absent, when results are still forming beneath the surface, and it is this consistency, maintained day after day, that eventually separates those who dream from those who achieve, not through luck or sudden breakthroughs, but through relentless, dependable, daily action. As the days stack on top of each other, you begin to realize that discipline is not a punishment you endure, but a structure that supports you, because structure removes chaos from your mind and replaces it with direction. And direction gives your effort meaning even on days when energy is low. And this is why disciplined people feel freer over time, while undisciplined people feel increasingly trapped. Because freedom is not the absence of responsibility, it is the ability to handle responsibility without collapsing under it. And that ability is built through repeated action, taken in moments when it would be easier to stop. And every time you act despite resistance, you widen your capacity. You expand what you can tolerate. And tolerance becomes strength, and strength becomes stability. And stability allows you to pursue bigger goals without being overwhelmed by them, because you have trained yourself to focus on the next action rather than the entire mountain. And focusing on the next action keeps fear manageable, because fear grows when you imagine everything at once, but shrinks when you concentrate on what you can do right now. And this is why day by day action is so powerful. It keeps you grounded in the present, where effort is possible, instead of lost in a future that feels too large to handle. And as you continue this practice, you stop romanticizing outcomes and start respecting process. You stop fantasizing about the finish line and start committing to the daily work that moves you closer to it. And this commitment creates momentum that carries you forward even when motivation disappears. Because momentum feeds itself, and once it is established, stopping feels harder than continuing. And this is when consistency becomes natural rather than forced, because your system is now aligned with action, and alignment removes friction. And with less friction, effort feels lighter, even though the work remains challenging. And this is how people become unstoppable, not by becoming superhuman, but by becoming consistent, by building a life where action is the default response to difficulty. And through this daily repetition, your mindset hardens, your focus sharpens, and your identity solidifies around the simple truth that progress is made by those who move, not those who wait. As you continue forward, you begin to understand that discipline is not something you suddenly achieve. It is something you practice until it becomes normal. At first, action feels forced because your old habits resist change. Your mind looks for shortcuts and excuses because it is used to comfort. But each day you act anyway, that resistance weakens. The effort that once felt heavy starts to feel familiar.